not done this in so long. This feels so weird. This feels odd. But I want to talk about books. And you know what? That's what we do here. We talk about books. Apologies if you can hear the construction in the background. I'm hoping that the mic helps with that, but they're doing construction in literally the next room over from where I am right now. So sorry about that. If you can hear it, just ignore it, okay? We are going to go in chronological order of books I've read recently, books that I want to read, or no, hang on. Books I've read recently, books that I'm currently reading, books I'm going to read. Number one book, it's just the first one that I'm starting with that I read recently, was Happy Place by Emily Henry. Didn't love it. I really loved Book Lovers, and so I had really high hopes for Happy Place, and like seeing what everybody else thought about Happy Place really made me excited to read it, and I was excited to like it, and then I didn't. So that sucks. I think I gave it like 3 stars maybe. I think it was just mainly the main romance that was like, it didn't hit. And so, you know, if you're writing a romance book, your main romance kind of has to be good. And this didn't do that for me. So I think the setting was nice. Obviously, it's a cutesy little setting. But I don't like miscommunication. I don't like that as a trope in romance. So I think that's part of my issue with this book, is that it was like heavily on miscommunication, and that's just not a good look. Not a good look. So yeah, that was Happy Place. 3 out of 5, I think. And yeah, if you like Emily Henry, I think you should give it a go. But, well, at this point, let's be real. It's May of 2024. Who hasn't read Happy Place? You know, I was very late to the game, and I read it like 2 months ago. So if you haven't read Happy Place yet, go for it. You might like it if miscommunication is your thing and boring main characters. Next is one that took me genuinely like a year. That's not true. Probably like 7 months to read. It took me a long time to read it, and that is Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. I really didn't like it. It was so boring. And also, don't marry your cousin. It's just not it. Just don't marry your cousin, and don't write about marrying your cousin. And it was boring. And I feel bad for Fanny. She was bullied. She was abused in like every place she ever lived. And it was really sad. And it's really thick. And I tabbed a whole bunch. And I don't remember why. I don't remember. I think a lot of them are like, oh wow, that's really depressing. Those kinds of scenes. And then also like, oh, don't flirt with your cousin. Don't do that. And then there were some funny parts. But overall, if you're a fan of classics, I love you for it. Go for it. I like classics. I am a fan of classics. Not this one. Next, total 180 is Wildwood by Colin Meloy. Can I just say, Colin Meloy is a sick name. Meloy? That's awesome. Makes me think of Tinkerbell and the Secret of the Wings. Lord Malloy. Oh, such a good name. I couldn't think of that for a second. But anyways, Colin Meloy and Carson Ellis. Wildwood is, to me, a very age-appropriate kind of depiction of war. And I think while this book is incredibly long-winded, and as a grown adult, I had trouble staying engaged with it. So I think someone even younger than myself would have trouble staying engaged with it. It's a really good book. It's written well. It is, like I said, it's a great age-appropriate depiction of war, whilst keeping that kind of fantasy element. You know, it keeps it fun while still being like, oh, people are dying. That's horrible. But that really is what this book is. And like I said, it's long-winded, so I think that it might be a bit of a drag for some. But other than that, I really don't have any bone to pick with this book. It was good. 4 out of 5 stars, I think. I can't remember. My cat is begging to be let in. We're just gonna do this with Megan on my lap. Hi. She's very mad because because of the construction, she has to be locked up in these back 2 rooms. So she's struggling with some anger from that. Okay, the next book I don't have physically because I borrowed it from my sister, but I read A Court of Thorns and Roses. And let me tell you, I didn't love it. And everybody is telling me to keep going, read the second book, you'll like the second one. But it was just a fantasy. Like, it was just a run-of-the-mill fantasy. There was nothing to make it stand out to me and to make it be like, oh, this is a fantasy that I want to reread over and over again, like Six of Crows and Percy Jackson. So it was just basic to me, and it was almost a little too easy. I think that a lot of things fell into place just perfectly, just right, you know, which obviously was intentional by the author to some degree. And that's just not it for me. And I say that about every book I don't like, is that it's not it for me. But I mean, really, if you think about it, it's it for somebody. Obviously, plenty of people like this book. It's just that I don't like it. So, it's not a horrible book. It just wasn't the one for me. I didn't love it. And that's okay. And that happens. And is there a bug? What do you see? So yeah, I think I gave that one 3 stars maybe? I don't know. I really can't remember what ratings I give books. So yeah, didn't love ACOTAR. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to move on to the second one or not, just because I didn't love the first one, but everybody's telling me I should, but also I don't like doing what I'm told. So, I don't know. We'll see. The last book I have to talk about that I read recently is called You Are So Cute. You're such a baby. The Woods Are Always Watching by Stephanie Perkins, a New York Times best-selling author whose best idea, best plot point was a bear at the very end, just to tie things up nicely in a little red bow with a bear. And if you haven't read this book, then me saying that makes absolutely no sense to you. And that's fine. It's probably best to keep it that way. It started out good. It's a thriller. You kind of feel the spooky vibes. And then it just gets to the end and it's like, what are we doing here? I'm confused. Save your time, go read the Bible instead is probably a good idea. Hi, Bean. There's another kitty who has now joined us. Meg hates Bean. Meg really can't stand Bean. Please don't do that. Hey, get down. Get down. Woods Are Always Watching. Don't read it. And I read this after watching a documentary about national park murders. A weird few days. It was a weird few days. Okay. Next, we're going to move on to books that I am currently reading. Currently reading 3 books. One is a book club book, one is a buddy read, and the other was just one that I picked up. The book club book is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I'm going to assume Matt Haig. I am on page 118. Svalbard. So good so far. I actually really like it. I started this a long time ago. I got like 2 pages in and stopped. And I don't remember why, which is nothing like, it was just the headspace that I was in at the time. I think I really needed something to immediately catch my attention. And this, you have to move slowly into it. But so far I really like it. It's really cool. It's emotional, you know. I'm feeling the emotions reading this book. But yeah, I can't wait to finish it and let you guys know what I think. Next up, buddy read, is Caraval by Stephanie Garber, or Caraval, I don't know how you say it. Not loving it so far. It's kind of, my sister summed it up in a really good way. it's telling me, not showing. Like, Stephanie is just telling me what's happening instead of showing me. And so it's kind of a drag. Like, I'm not at any point in time like, ooh, let me go read the next chapter of Caraval. It's just kind of like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Maybe I should read more of Caraval. So it's not really grabbing my attention in the way that Once Upon a Broken Heart did. And yeah, I don't know. It's okay, I guess. It's fine. It's fantasy. It's kind of ACOTAR in that similar sense of like, it's just a fantasy book. Nothing is standing out to me yet. Nothing is making me want to keep reading it or be intrigued by the characters or anything. So that's one of the other books I'm reading right now. Last one is in this cutesy book sleeve. Look how adorable this is. Oh my goodness, I love it. It is What Matters in Jane Austen, 20 Crucial Puzzles Solved by John Milan. It's exactly what it sounds like. He's just like chapter by chapter going through different specific points in Jane Austen's writing and kind of breaking it down and just kind of giving a little bit of insight into those specific things. One of them was like age, why is age important? And just like questions like that, and then just breaking down why Austen writes that way and why those things are important. So I'm really liking it so far. I honestly haven't read it in a really long time because I started these other books, and this is just like on my own time reading, so I'm not necessarily having to keep up with anyone else. So I'm on chapter 6, and yeah, it's just a nice kind of calming, right before bed read, and I like it. And it's a library book, and something I rediscovered recently is the library. Libraries are awesome. I did when I was a kid. We would have weekly library trips when we were younger, but then like you get older and you just kind of stop using the library as much, and I really think that we need to make libraries great again, because libraries are awesome. Books that I want to read that I got from the library, if I didn't tell you that already. First one is Bloom's Major Novelists, Comprehensive Research and Study Guide to Franz Kafka. I don't know why I got this. I've never read Kafka. I didn't have to for school. I've never chosen to. I honestly don't think that I'm smart enough for it, so I really am not sure why I picked this one up. I'm not gonna read it. Like, let's be real. Let's be so for real right now. Hang on. Let's be real for a moment. I'm not gonna read this because I don't have the brain power for something of this magnitude. You know, there's a lot in these few pages. As you can tell, it's very small. And I am not smart enough for that. I've never read Kafka, and something tells me that you need to have read Kafka in order to understand what's inside of this book, kind of like the Jane Austen book. I'm not gonna read it, but it'd be cool if I did. It'd be really cool if I did. Next up is not a necessarily like sit down and read this kind of a book, but it is fun. It's the Facts on File Encyclopedia of World Mythology and Legend, 3rd edition by Anthony S. Mercatante and James R. Dow, Volume 1, A through L. That was a mouthful, but look at it. Isn't that so fun? Oh, love that. It's just an encyclopedia of mythology. So, and honestly, not too sure when I would have to impress someone with my knowledge of the world mythology and legend, but if I ever needed to, I'm ready. I'm prepared. I'm going to study this. This is a textbook in me university. All right.
After the Tempest, after the reunion, after her father drowned his books, Miranda was meant to enter a brave new world. Naples awaited her, and Ferdinand and the throne. Instead, she finds herself in Milan, in her father's castle, surrounded by hostile servants who treat her like a ghost. Whispers cling to her like spiderwebs, whispers that carry her dead mother's name. And though he promised to give away his power, Milan is once again contorting around Prospero's dark arts. With only Dorothea, her sole companion and confidant, to aid her, Miranda must cut through the mystery and find the truth about her father, her mother, and herself.
Sounds fun. Sounds exciting. Honestly, I kind of picked it up because of this gorgeous cover. It is so pretty. And it's small. It's relatively short. 200 pages, so that's Miranda and Milan, and I'm hoping it's good, and I'm hoping I like it and I can obsess over it. Honestly, what I'm chasing is a book that makes me feel like My Beloved, The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. If you guys have never read this book, I feel like I talk about it so often.
But you have to. You literally have to read this book. I have never read any of books. I was gonna say six crazy. I don't know what six crazy. I don't know, okay? None of them have made me feel the way that the historian does. And I'm just chasing this high. This 800 page, is it 800 pages? This 700 page book. I'm just chasing this high. Yeah. That's what I want every book to do to me, is what this book did to me. Haven't found it yet, but I'm really hoping that I do soon.
So, Miranda and Milan, I have got a lot writing on that book. I kind of have unfair expectations on that book because, I mean, let's be real, nothing is ever going to measure up to The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. So, All the Murmuring Bones by A.G. Slatter. This one I'm not entirely sure about. It sounds like it might be a little bit witchy, and I'm cool with magic. I'm cool with, like, you know, creatures and stuff like that. But witches, don't love. The only witch that I will tolerate is Wanda Maximoff, and I stand by that. Yeah, I'm not really sure about this one, but hopefully it's good and not too witchy and I can finish it. I cannot believe that I found this book at the library, and maybe that's just crazy. Maybe I need to do a little more research and like see when it actually came out. I found What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. I assume that's how you say her name. I don't actually know. Oh my gosh, I've heard so much about this book. People are saying that it's like The Mummy, and if there's one thing that you need to know about me, it is that The Mummy 1999, starring Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser and John Hannah, because
I could talk about this movie. I could talk about this movie for the rest of the video, actually. No, I do, but I really could. It's the best movie ever. It's the best story, it's the best acting, it's just, all of it works so well. Okay.
forget that. We're not talking about The Mummy. We're talking about What the River Knows, which has been compared to The Mummy. I don't know anything about this book. I really don't, except that it's beautiful. It's been compared to The Mummy, and I found it at the library. So I didn't even have to pay for it. I don't own it, but I can renew it if I need to. So that's awesome. Cannot wait to read this. I have a feeling I'm gonna go through it super fast, and I have a feeling I'm gonna love it. I really hope I love it. I cannot believe this. Okay, this and The Kingdom of Sweets, which I own The Kingdom of Sweets. I own a Book of the Month edition of Kingdom of Sweets. So excited about this. I have been like wanting to read these two for so long, and searching. I don't want to spend the money on them. You know, they're relatively new-ish, so they're still relatively expensive. I found The Kingdom of Sweets at a used bookstore, Book of the Month edition, brand spanking new. It is gorgeous. It was like, actually I used a gift card, so I didn't even spend any of my own money on it. Awesome, I love that for me. And then What the River Knows at the library. Crazy. I love books, you guys. Okay, What the River Knows. Lastly, and this is the very last book that I have to talk about today, after I put this one away, and that is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber, the third book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. Let me explain something here. I read Once Upon a Broken Heart a while ago, like last fall, I think. It's been a while since I read it. And then I read The Ballad of Never After, and I don't love either of them. I have to be honest with you. They're not that great. They're really not. It's just good vibes. It's just easy. They're easy fantasies to read. You just kind of, you read them and you're just like, oh, yeah, I'll read the next one. You know, you don't have to think too hard about these books. And I think that's honestly part of why they're so popular, is because they are just an easy fantasy. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. There's nothing wrong with an easy fantasy. You know, ACOTAR, Wildwood, da-da-da-da-da. They're just easy, you know? They're easy to love, easy to read. So I got the third one. I own the first two. But like, again, with What the River Knows and The Kingdom of Sweets, it's relatively new still. So finding a copy of it that I'm not gonna break the bank on is kind of difficult. Unless I were to find a secondhand one, but then I don't want to pay for shipping, whatever. So if I love it, then maybe I'll continue the hunt to own my own copy of it. Same with all of these. That's the thing with library books, is if I love it, I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna have my own copy of it. If I don't love it, I'm not out anything. It's from the library, you know? Love it. Oh, the concept of libraries, great. That's the last book that I have to talk about. I feel like I'm on like a sugar high, and it's because I had coffee this morning, and so coffee and books, and I watched an episode of Sue Thomas FBI. Living my best life right now. Absolutely thriving. Anyways, I want to read all of these right now in just one like week-long reading session, but I can't. I have things that I have to do, so I'm gonna end it here, and I'm gonna leave you with these words. I have to think of them first. Read what you want to. Read what makes you happy. And if it doesn't make sense to other people, oh well, who cares? Mansfield Park did not make me happy. Read what makes you happy. If you want to talk about it, talk about it. If you want to leave an essay of a review, leave an essay of a review. If your entire review is meh, then that's your whole review, and that's awesome. And that's great. And love books. Love talking about them. If you've read any of these, please let me know. Let's discuss. Don't spoil anything if it's one of the books I haven't read yet. Bye.